Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the Just One More Level podcast, the show where we rate a game based on whether or not we would want to play just one more level. I am your co host, John,
And I'm Christian.
and this week we have played Castlevania Symphony of the Night and Destroy All Humans. This week I played Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It originally came out on the PS1, but I played it on the PlayStation 4. It was a port from the PSP. They did like a remaster for the PSP eventually, and that was eventually ported to the PlayStation Network, and they're selling it now for anybody that has a PS4 or 5. So it's actually pretty versatile. You can
Right.
play the game on more systems than I originally thought you could. I
That's
remember for
cool.
a long time.
What is it though?
What is Castlevania
Yeah,
Symphony of the
I know
Night?
where I can play it, but I have no idea what it is. What is
Oh, okay.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night? What did you play actually?
Yeah, actually, Castlevania Symphony of the Night is a side-scrolling 2D action platformer with some
Okay.
light RPG elements,
Right. I
heavy
mean,
emphasis on exploration,
for
and
anyone who
it
doesn't
has
know, that's where the
yeah,
term Metroidvania kind of came from, right?
it
Because
does.
this is that game. This is the Castlevania game that helped
Hmm.
invent the Metroidvania genre. I've
Yeah.
never played it, but I've heard so much about it, not only from you, but just in general, because
Yes.
it's that game. Like it helped
Yes.
introduce the acquiring new powers and then backtracking and to get
Hmm.
to new areas that you couldn't get to before, et cetera, et cetera. But John, you're the one that played it, so tell us,
Yes.
and tell us what did you what is Castlevania Symphony of the Night? What exactly made it special other than, they added the RPG elements, the backtracking? Is it better than the other Castlevania games? Is it
Oh
worse?
yeah.
How do you feel
So
about it, man?
it's far better. I'd say it's the best Castlevania game I think I've probably played.
How
Um,
many have you played? You've played a fair few at this point, right?
I have. I've played the original two on the NES. I've
Hmm.
played Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo, and I've played this one. So that's
Okay.
that's just
So a
that's
couple
just
at
four.
least, yeah.
Yeah, that's just four so far. But I really enjoy what I've played. And I'm looking forward to playing Castlevania 3 as well. It's on that collection. I figured that's probably what we'd be playing this year for Halloween.
Hmm.
Spoilers. Not to look too far ahead, but it is tradition so far. We've played a Castlevania game every Halloween.
Pretty
Um,
much. Yep. Yep.
so so I figured we'd get into Castlevania 3 this year, but so far it's probably the best Castlevania game, if not one of the best games I've ever played. It's just so well designed. Everything about the game is so well designed. It's so carefully thought out, and I think it's the culmination of 2D side-scrolling Castlevania. Borrowing the elements from the Metroid franchise that they did was probably the best decision that they could have made for the franchise because it was starting to get stale, right? They had the same game pretty much every time. You had two games on the Game Boy, you had three games on the NES, you had a couple on the SNES, you had one on the Genesis, all pretty much the same game, except for Castlevania 2, which they realized did actually do commercially well, despite its criticisms these days, of course. Um, it did actually do pretty well. So they thought people do want to see some kind of exploration based Castlevania game. So let's give it to them. And
Where
Konami,
not
yeah,
to sidetrack you a little bit here, but where did they
yeah.
go with the series excuse me, after Castlevania Symphony of the Night? Because like I
Uh,
know they tried the 3D stuff at some point and that wasn't really received too well, and I
well,
don't
they
think
did a
they
bit of
really
both.
made much more. Did they? So like for
Yeah,
because this was
they
the
did.
PlayStation 1 era, did they do like
Yeah.
2D or PS2 Castlevania games or anything like that? Like did they continue the legacy
So
of Symphony of the Night, or did it just kind of die off after
it's
SOTN?
like kind of yes and no. There was a few Castlevania games after Symphony of the Night throughout the 2000s.
Hmm.
Um, because Symphony of the Night actually was late 90s. It was 97 it
Yeah.
came out. I didn't realize it was as late as it was, but it was 97 when it came out. So throughout the 2000s, you didn't have much more on I don't think you had any more on home video like home consoles. I think it was handheld after that. I think there was a few on Game Boy Advance that I believe was in the early 2000s, and then on the Nintendo DS. I think there
Okay.
was some Castlevania games, and then
Interesting.
it kind of died out from there. There was a mobile game that came out not too long
Oh
ago.
god. I man,
Um,
mobile games just
there
they
is
don't
a
do anything for me, man.
right. There's a mobile port of Symphony of the Night that I own.
Okay. How does that
Funny
one
enough,
play? I'm sorry, sidetracking a lot, but how does that one play? Have you like
I mean
gotten
not
anywhere in
really.
it? Because
I have
it
not beaten
doesn't
the first
sound good.
boss,
Like
but to be fair, I got stuck on the first boss at the same time I got stuck on the first boss in the normal game that I was playing on the PS4.
okay.
So that
Yeah,
was, I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
a matter of skill and not a matter of not being able to handle the phone control. It plays surprisingly well. It just has virtual controls. It has a virtual joystick, but the buttons are not like themed after a specific kind of controller like the
Right.
PlayStation or Xbox. They're just symbols of what that button does. This button jumps, this button dashes, this button whatever. So that's nice in a way. And then they have a like a pentagram figure up at the top to signify your magic and the patterns that you need
Ah,
to do your magic spells, which I'll
that
get into
sounds
in a little
terrible.
bit.
Uh,
Well, it's interesting because the way that you would do your magic spells, I was wondering how they would get around it. Because you do your magic spells in kind of like a Mortal Kombat combo move.
okay.
Like
In the regular version or the version you're
in
playing
the
here
in the
for the
regular
PS4.
version,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
On the D-pad, it's like up, diagonal, right. So it's
Okay.
like quarter turn to the right and then
Right, right.
attack, or a
Okay.
half turn to the bottom and then attack. It's
See,
like
that doesn't sound too bad,
kind of like
but
Mortal
the
Kombat, right?
drawing
Like
on the screen sort of thing, especially with a
yeah,
cell phone game,
hmm
because like then you're holding it with two hands presumably to like run
right.
around, jump or whatever, and then you have to take off one hand, draw on the screen, and then quickly put your hand back to do
Mhm.
spells. Like that
It's kind of
sounds. I
like
guess maybe you could use your thumb,
in the
like if you could
UI,
reach
it's
it up
it's
there at least.
yeah. Well, in the UI, it's kind of like right above where the virtual joystick is,
Okay.
so it's not that
I mean, I
bad.
guess it's not too bad, but
But eh, it, it's the best possible version that they could have
for
done for a
mobile.
mobile port.
Got it.
Yeah.
I have a counter argument. Just don't make a mobile port.
I
I
mean, that's
don't.
fair enough,
It's
but
fucking mobile, man. But
yeah,
for the
but
PS4 version, though, the one that you played, what
yes.
did you like about it more than the other Castlevania games, though? Because I mean, you
Oh my god.
mentioned that like this is the
So,
best one. What did they do that made it so much better, other than, of course,
I
the
mean,
stronger exploration elements?
so everything about this game is better. I mean, so you have the stronger exploration elements, which of course I love. You have light RPG elements. Um,
Mm,
and the best way I heard it described was by a YouTuber. I forget his name. I'll have to link it in the video when I upload it if I can remember. Um, the best way I heard it described was it's a light RPG that focuses on skill, not stats. So
okay.
you still need to be good at the game. Like you need to be good at Castlevania.
Right.
You got to be a sharp platformer. You have to be
You can't
good
just
at the
grind your
combat.
way up to such a high level that nothing matters anymore. Like
Right.
you still got to be
You
decent at the game at least.
right, because in order to grind yourself to that level, you have to be good at the game.
Okay.
You
Okay.
have to be good at fighting and killing things in order to grind yourself up to that level because it's pretty incremental. It's not exponential how fast you can level up. It takes a while. You need to be kind of dedicated to doing it. So that guy was actually comparing it to Dark Souls, which I thought was interesting.
Hmm.
But in those
I can
very
see the
vague,
comparison.
yeah, those like vague generic ways, just like
Right.
everything is skill based, and it's tough but fair. It's not tough but fuck you, you know,
It's not
like
tough, but fuck you. Yep.
it's that's what did he say? I think he was like there's hard but fair and there's hard but that's bullshit. That was some bullshit right there.
Right.
This game doesn't
Okay,
have a
so
lot of that. So gone are the
that's
days of
good.
like instant death pits where you just
That's
fall
really
down
good.
somewhere and
So
die
nothing's
for no
more annoying
reason.
than yeah, than an instant
Yeah,
death pit just sending you to hell because
right.
the level designers decided to put an enemy in the world's worst place. Like it's
Precisely.
that's the biggest complaint that I had about the original Castlevania games, like on
hmm
the NES. So
Right.
good to hear that that's gone. And also, just watching the footage that you
Yes.
provided here, I can't help but notice just how much like Metroid it is. The combat's obviously
Mm-hmm.
way different, but like
Mm-hmm. The map.
the little tiny levels, the map, the vertical sections, like it
Yes.
looks like this map could have been Metroid, like
Right. But
100%.
like
There are
that's
some
where the
slightly larger
term
sections, but yeah,
yeah, that's where the term, Metroidvania comes from
right,
because
yeah,
it's built like a Metroid game, but it plays like a Castlevania game.
Castlevania game, yeah.
And it looks aesthetically like a Castlevania game because Metroid
What
has
about
kind of a sci-fi,
what's the story
sci-fi
like
thing
for
going
it,
on.
John?
All right, so the story of Symphony of the Night, I should first tell you very briefly the story of Rondo of Blood. If anybody doesn't know, Castlevania Symphony of the Night is actually a sequel. It is a part two to a story that starts with Rondo of Blood. Every 100 years, Dracula rises from the grave, and Castlevania rises once more. Castlevania is the name of his castle. Um, Castlevania rises once more, and a Belmont must fight Dracula, right? So Richter Belmont, who is a descendant of Simon Belmont from the original games, and Trevor Belmont from Part 3, um, rises up and fights Dracula. And inside of the castle, in Rondo of Blood, he meets a 12-year-old girl named Maria Renard, who is magic. She can call upon animal familiars to help her fight evil,
Mm,
and she's
okay,
actually a second playable character in that game.
very cool.
So when they made anyway, Richter Belmont, of course, same old story. He does exactly what Simon does. Fights his way through the castle and the night creatures and forces of Dracula, eventually killing Dracula and putting him back to sleep for 100 years. But this game only takes place a mere 4 or 5 years after Rondo of Blood. So how can Dracula and the castle be back? You, as Alucard, have been awakened from your eternal slumber. It was supposed to be an eternal slumber after Castlevania Part 3. Because Castlevania 3, you fight with Trevor Belmont, Sypha Belnades, and Grant something.
Something.
These are a lot
Yep.
of names to remember.
It
Um,
is. I'm already lost. I'll be honest. I
right.
have no idea what's
Uh,
going on.
you fight with with that crew to put Dracula to rest for the first time. That's a prequel to Castlevania. Castlevania 3 is a prequel to the first
Okay.
Castlevania. Okay.
There's the word
So
Castlevania alone has been said so many times that I don't think words have
right,
meaning anymore.
same. So the third one is a prequel. Alucard is a character in the third one. He goes to rest after he defeats his father. He says, "I'm going
Okay.
to eternal sleep." Okay? So he gets awakened from his eternal sleep and he's pissed, okay? So he runs
Fair.
up to the castle and he says, "Why is the castle back?" And he finds Maria Renard, who is now like 17, and she's here also to find out why the castle's back and to find Richter because Richter is missing. That's the big MacGuffin. Richter is missing. We don't know why
So
Richter's missing.
so that's this game now.
That's this game now.
Okay.
Yes. Now,
Okay.
now
Okay.
we've. I'm sorry. Now, at the start of Symphony of the Night, I shall preface. Alucard meets Maria Renard in the castle. Okay,
Okay.
and he wants to know why she's there, and she says, "Why are you here?" He says, "This is my father's castle. Why are you here?" And she says, "Well, I was the one that put Dracula in the ground the last time with Richter, who was missing." He said, "Oh shit. I'll keep an eye out, I guess, but I got important stuff to do. I got to kill Dracula." She said, "Okay." And they part ways. Alucard tries to go through the castle, but he's intercepted by Death, who
Uh,
steals all of his gear.
okay.
So you start the game in a really interesting way. You start the game completely powered up. You're at level 1, so
Right.
like your stats aren't powered up, but you have all of Alucard's powerful gear. All of his stuff is named, like Alucard mail for his chainmail armor, and the Alucard sword, the Alucard shield, stuff like that. You have to find those in the castle after the fact because Death takes them from you and scatters them through the castle because Death himself serves Dracula for some reason. And um, then from there, your adventure begins. You are completely left on your
Uh
own to explore.
it, oh, I'm lost, but that's fine.
Good.
Hey, like, look, I'll be honest. Whenever I asked, like, "Hey, what's the story for the game?" Kind of like, I was
Yeah,
expecting like 3 sentences because I mean, I played Castlevania 1, and the
I'm
story
sorry.
doesn't fucking matter. And then I played like Castlevania 2. I never beat it, but I played a bit of it, and you know what? Fuck the story. No one cares. So
Right.
I was like, oh yeah, okay. So you're playing
I'm
this
s
guy Alucard. There's this girl. She was in one of the other games, but really, who cares? And she woke him up by accident. So now he has to go fix all this shit. Like,
Mhm.
wow, I'm more lost now than I was before I asked the question. But that's fine. The game
I'm
has
so
a story. Is the story important? Then I guess is what I'll ask.
I
Because obviously the other games do have story, but like, who
I
gives a shit?
yes. The
Okay.
story the story in this one is actually important because
Okay.
there are two different endings, Christian.
Ah, okay.
There are
That's a
two different
feature.
endings to this game. Yeah. So
Why
normal castle.
do I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm watching the footage here.
You're
In
okay.
some of the small rooms that you're passing through say
Uh-huh.
CD like
Yes.
engraved in the stone. Why does it say CD? Is it because
Uh
this game was originally released on CD or like
yeah, that was actually a clever way for the developers to cut down on loading times. When you run
by
through
putting
that
CD
room,
into the stone?
yes, when you run through that room, it lets the disc know to cut the music.
Okay, so they just
So
put
when
they put CD there as kind of like a little Easter
kind of
egg
a
thing or something. Like
yes,
it's
like a
loading
clue
shit
for
from the CD,
themselves.
so
Well, this game
oh.
was like kind of rushed towards the end, so
Mhm.
there was some developer shit that got left in.
Okay.
So CD might have been a leftover developer thing. Amber tells me that CD just stands for Castle Dracula.
Maybe.
So,
Maybe. I have no idea. I just
um,
kept seeing the CD and I'm like,
yeah.
what is with the
So
CD?
yeah.
But
So
what
those
other
rooms are they cut the music in that room specifically so that they can load visual textures in
okay,
the
okay.
next area
Right.
without having to break for a loading screen.
Which makes sense. The PS1 was famous for having very little VRAM, so
Hmm.
techniques like that had to be used aggressively for the
Yeah.
PS1, so that makes
Hmm.
sense. Honestly, that tracks. But so what other
Hmm.
neat features are there? Is there anything else that you really liked about the game? Anything else that made it stand out to you over the other Castlevanias?
Yes. So the artwork is
Is beautiful.
absolutely phenomenal.
It is. Mhm.
Not just the quality of the pixel art, but the different techniques that they use to make some of the effects happen. Because this game is full of special effects, not just high quality pixel art. It's made on the PlayStation 1, so 2D side scrollers were kind of easy. Not easy to like program and all that kind of stuff, but you know, it could handle it fine.
Mhm.
They weren't worried about that, but now they wanted to like push a game like this to its like full limits. What could we do? So they took
Right. Okay.
advantage of they're doing something similar actually. If you guys haven't listened to the podcast before, Christian and I sometimes mess around with trying to make a video game. Um, they used a technique that we were talking about. They used like 3D polygons for the sprites and put textures like pixel art textures on them for
Okay.
a lot of
Okay.
it.
So not like
So
what we were doing necessarily because
right.
ours are technically 3D plus we're in a 3D world, but I wonder if that was
Right.
more just a limitation of the PS1 like
It could
because
have been.
the PS1 may not have had technically had
I
a
heard
2D graphics
someone.
accelerator
Yeah,
where it definitely
I
had a 3D
apologize because
graphics
I'm
accelerator.
I'm sure I'm butchering it, but what I'm trying to describe is something that someone very much smarter than me described, or at least much more informed, um, about polygons. They use some kind of technique that like let two polygons come beside each other to make a quad, and then the quad could
That's
be
just the
used
PlayStation.
to yeah
The
map
PlayStation
textures
1
on it,
yeah.
something
The PlayStation
something
1
about that.
didn't use polygons, it used
Oh,
quads.
okay.
Just in
Okay.
general,
Gotcha.
that's one of the reasons why the PlayStation 1 was more complicated to make games for than some of the other consoles, and also
Okay.
why you got a lot of shimmering effects and misplaced uh quads technically and things like that. That was just
Gotcha.
quirk of
Okay.
the programming on the PS1.
Okay. Yeah,
But
because they were trying to describe that with one of the scenes specifically, where it's a big 3D background. There's a
mm,
chapel that you go through, and hopefully we get to see it on the footage here. I haven't seen it yet. Maybe you've seen it already because I haven't been looking at the
the
footage the
bell
whole time.
when the bells are going on, is that the chapel or
That's near the
I don't
chapel.
remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
The part of
I've
the
probably
chapel
saw it, but I don't remember.
Here's part of the chapel here, the stairs.
Okay,
If you're watching any of the video playback, if this matches up at all, who
probably
knows
not.
what's going to happen in post. But yeah, this is part of the chapel here. But anyway, there's a main sanctuary where you get to see like stained glass windows going all the way back into the
Mm,
backgrounds and like pews and everything, and it's like completely 3D behind you, but everything in
okay,
the foreground
okay.
is still pixel art.
Weird.
And they yeah, like they use a mix. Like you saw there for a brief second, the forest, the tree line was parallax. It was a pixel art background. Hey, here's the chapel. That's what I'm talking about. You see this? Look how magnificent this is.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That is gorgeous. Look
It's a
at the.
neat
I know
effect,
that's not
considering
real
like how
lighting
the rest of the
effects,
game
but
looks. It's really neat.
yeah, like I love the mix. You know, the way that they used, because you couldn't do that on the Super Nintendo, but you know, you could do
Um,
like, but not like specifically the way that looked with like a 3D background, like a real 3D background back there.
maybe with
You
like a
know what I
Super
mean?
FX chip or something like that. I feel like you
Sure.
could probably have pulled it off, but it certainly would have been much easier on the PS1 than the N64.
Right.
But we're getting sidetracked again. So
Hmm.
yeah, so cool art, cool exploration. There's some light
Yeah.
RPG elements. Any other
Hmm.
cool things about the game? Because I mean, I was gonna
Yeah.
ask if you liked it or not, but obviously you're enjoying it. So like,
I'm in
is there
love with this game.
any other like
Um,
specific things you want to call out? Cool things?
I love all of the enemy designs, even though
Hmm.
apparently a lot of them were ported over from Rondo of Blood. I heard that they ported it over from Rondo of Blood, a lot of the enemy designs. And the biggest thing that I love that this game does is a huge gimmick, huge twist in the story. Christian, do you know who the villain is?
Dr- Uh, uh, not
Uh,
Dracula.
it's not Dracula, it's
I
Richter
called it.
Belmont.
Ah, fuck the Belmont guy. Okay, why
The
is
Richter
he the villain now?
Belmont.
Villain now?
I
I mean, that's
don't, we
spoiler
don't
time.
we
Maybe we don't want to
don't
get into the spoiler parts, but like, okay, okay,
spoilers. Sorry. He's not actually the villain.
okay.
He's
Now
under
I'm
control.
I mentioned being confused earlier. I'm more confused now, but that's fine. That gives me a reason to play the game, I guess, because it's like,
Yeah,
what is this guy on the internet talking about? I have no
he's
clue, but the
yeah,
game
he's
looks
being
cool, so maybe I'll give it a try.
yeah, he's being mind controlled by Dracula's evil priest,
Mm,
whose
okay,
name is Shaft. He was in the last game, I guess. I haven't played the last game, but he was in the last game. His name's Shaft. He mind controls Richter, and Richter somehow raises the castle and resurrects Dracula. And
okay.
you find this out, but only if you get the good ending.
This
If
is
you get the bad
we're
ending,
we're getting back into that story bit that's just confusing the hell out of me.
yeah. If you get
Was
if you get the bad ending, you fight Richter in Dracula's throne room as if he's the final boss.
okay,
And if you win, if you kill Richter, the game ends.
okay,
But if you got certain items in your playtime, if you really explored, the game rewards you with an upside down castle,
right. Which is what you're
uh,
exploring now, I believe, right?
which is what I'm exploring now.
Okay,
Yes, in the
yeah.
footage.
Um,
So the
was there
upside down.
anything about the game that you didn't like, Jonathan? Were there any problems with it?
Sorry, I mean, it crashes sometimes when I try to launch it.
Just when you try to launch it, though, or
Just when I
like
try
in
to
the middle
launch
of
it.
gameplay? Okay,
No,
so some
never in the
weird
middle of
thing on the
gameplay.
PS4 or something like that. Okay,
Right.
I mean, hey,
Gosh, is
that's
there anything I
fair.
don't like? I mean, of course, there's yeah, there's some UI things that I think are
Okay,
kind of silly. Like for instance, for health items, you can't just use a health item from the inventory. You have to equip it to your hand as if it's a sword or shield.
hmm
Get out of the inventory, use it,
sure,
and then go back
yeah,
into the inventory,
yep,
unequip it, put your shield back there. I think that's kind of a needless step.
yeah.
I
I know what you're
I
saying.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
I gotcha.
why just let me
Yeah,
you know what I mean, or
that's
make it a
super
shortcut or
annoying.
something.
I can't think of any games off the top of my head, but I know I've played games like that before. Well,
Mhm.
actually, not exactly the same, but Odin Sphere. Whenever I was playing through that game on stream,
Okay.
similar in the way where like you couldn't just. For me, it was I wanted like a quick key to use these things or something like that.
Right.
Instead, you had to like go into the menu, select the specific one you wanted to use, and then
Right.
use it,
Yeah.
and then use it again and again or whatever until your health was full. Um,
Right.
And then I know I've played games more like what you're talking about, and that is annoying. Like it'd be nice if you could
Mm.
just click on it and that was it. Done. Cool. Dusted. Continue. You know?
And even worse, if you're not using a potion,
Mm-hmm.
if you're using a food item that you found, he throws it on the ground.
Wait,
Like
like
he doesn't use it. He throws it. Like if
so
it's a potion, you hold it in your hand, you press the button, and a little like visual effect happens around you, and then you
right,
heal,
okay.
right? But if you're using a food item, you pick it up from wherever you found it. Now it's in your inventory. You have to put it in your hand. When you use it, he throws it in front of himself, and you have to walk into it for it to heal you.
Yeah, no, that's weird. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess it's one of those things where you would just get used to it after a little while, but it's like why? You know? Like I can understand maybe with the PS1 things like that were still being figured out and UI design and quality of life and all that, but when they were doing the PSP port that was eventually brought to the PS4, the version you're playing, why not just fix that? Like by the time
yeah.
the PSP was
They
around, they
fixed
certainly knew that had to
the
be annoying.
embarrassing
Like,
voice acting, but
oh
they didn't
man,
fix
that's
things
a
that actually
negative.
mattered.
Like, are we talking
Exactly.
like Resident Evil 1 cringe, or are we talking
Yes.
about?
Yes, it
See,
was that amount of cringe. Have
that's
you
good.
you've heard the meme, I'm sure. What
Yes.
is a man? But nothing but a miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about you? Do you remember? That's a big old meme. That's the opening cutscene of this game. The opening cutscene is the a reimagining of the last battle from Rondo of Blood, so that it really ties the two games together. So,
Okay.
opening scene of the game, you fight Dracula. First
Okay.
thing you do is fight Dracula, and you win pretty easily because Richter has special powers, and Maria Renard shows up halfway through the battle if you lose to help you out. So works out perfectly. And then that's when you get into it as Alucard. You rush into the castle from the forest, just sword ablazing. You just start fucking shit up in the castle. Just wham, wham, just smacking these giant wolves in the face with your sword. And it feels so powerful. And then you're rendered completely impotent by death. He takes all your stuff, and then the exploration begins because you want to get all your stuff back. That was my motivation anyway.
Is
I
your
was
motivation?
pissed. I was pissed.
Is there
I
anything else bad
finally
about the game, John?
I I mean, I suppose that some people could complain about some of the mechanics maybe, like, but
For
it
you
all
though,
feels really
who cares what
good.
everyone else thinks? For you,
No, I really like it. I think it all feels really good. I think it feels fluid. The platforming and the combats all feel really good for me. Um, I like the way that it's structured. I like the way the story is told. I think that it's near perfect game.
okay, awesome.
And
So in that case,
I
then
have 139%ed the game in this video. And as of right now, as of the time of this recording, I've put in a few more hours and I've 170% of the game. So I'm nearly finished. And if anybody's confused, it's considered to be 200% in the game if you beat the upside down castle because it is optional.
see,
If you don't get
that's a
the right
negative right there.
items,
This game's
yeah.
already sound like a 3 out of 5. I don't.
See, that is a big thing. Like I will say that I think that's kind of bullshit.
Yeah,
That it's
yeah.
optional. I think that I understand why, because you need to find certain items and interact with certain people to get certain cutscenes,
It's
you
half the
know.
game though. Like
But yeah,
I'm
that's
annoyed
more
when
almost
Spyro
more than
had
half the
a
game.
I'm annoyed that Spyro had a treasure room after you beat the final boss, and you
Yeah,
don't actually 100% the game until you 120% the game. That annoyed
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Like to have a
But
whole
not
half of the
200%.
game, like yeah,
Even,
that's
I mean, if you think about it, even more than half, because if you don't get those items and follow that
true,
storyline,
true. Yeah,
then you've only like
then you
30%
can't
of the game.
unlock it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
you have to do all of that extra before you even get to the upside down, and then you have to beat the entire upside down castle, which is significantly harder. It's harder than the first game.
don't get me wrong. I like the mechanic. I
Yeah.
just don't like the name of the 100% versus 200% thing.
Same.
That's that I call
That is
bullshit
the
on that.
only
But like,
other that is the only other negative for me. I will agree is that The upside down castle was optional. I believe it should be mandatory. If
I'm
you play
fine
the
with it being
game,
optional. Just don't call it
yeah.
100%. That's
That
my
was the
thing.
only
Like,
that was the only thing that I knew about this game going in, other than knowing that it was well regarded as a Castlevania game, was that there was an upside down map that you could flip the map. I knew that you could flip the map. I don't remember how, but I had just heard about it at some point. I
so what are
think
you rating the
somebody that
game?
what am I
What
rating
do
the
you,
game?
yeah, what are you gonna give it? You said it's a nearly perfect game. I'm expecting a high score here.
Nearly perfect game. Yeah,
Yeah,
4.5 out of 5.
4.5.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night, 4.5
Gotta
out of
admit,
5.
I kind of expect you to give it a 5. Not gonna lie,
I
but
can't I can't give anything a 5.
I mean,
Nothing's perfect.
I mean, this is true, but like, let's be honest. It's
It's a 5
things
out of
are
5.
perfect in our eyes, and that's okay.
In my
This
eyes,
rating
Castlevania
is
is a 5 out of
bullshit,
5.
anyways. It doesn't
Yes.
matter. Our ratings are not meant to be taken seriously in the least
I
bit. I
would
just want to
I
make
would
that clear to
yeah.
everyone up front. Like,
I would absolutely play just one more level. If not, like try to start speed running it. Like it's amazing.
ooh,
I
okay,
absolutely love this game. I've put in how long to beat says a completionist run of this game takes 16 hours. I've
okay,
put
it's not too
in
bad, honestly.
18. I've put
I
in
appreciate
18 and
that.
a half,
Okay.
19,
You
and I
also
still
have a
haven't
baby, so
completed
I
it
imagine there's been a couple times you've had to walk away from the game and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
and left the
So,
clock
like,
running and
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I
a few
mean, that doesn't
times.
seem
Yeah.
too bad. That doesn't seem too
Mm-mm.
bad. But, and I like that too, because a thing for me, honestly, that I'm getting annoyed with is just how long games have been getting, which I'm going to be
Yeah.
talking about a little bit in my upcoming, quote unquote, review of Destroy All Humans.
Yeah. That'll be coming. That'll be coming right now.
Right now,
Yeah.
guys.
Right.
Okay, no.
Right now, here we go. But no, yes, I would definitely play just one more
Uh,
level of
that's awesome.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
I'll
It's
admit I want to play
amazing
it.
game.
I've wanted to play it
Look at
for a
that
long
castle.
time.
Look at that
What you
castle
said,
back there.
the
That's
things you've
amazing. Look
said
at the moon.
haven't. I don't think they've necessarily made me want to play it more, but they haven't turned me off from playing it either.
Hmm.
And I think honestly, it's just I'm
Right.
confused. That's
That's
I'm
that's
just so
Christian.
confused now.
Christian. It's
Like,
very simple. Okay, it's very simple. Let me lay it out for you.
all
Cat
right, tell me like I'm
fucking
two. Let's go.
okay.
Cat fucking. That's the whole game. Cat
Fucking
fucking.
Dracula. Okay,
You're fucking
Dracula.
Dracula.
Christian.
Suddenly porn game. I like
You
it.
don't no, you don't fuck Dracula. But
Well,
it was inspired
you
on
just
a movie where Winona
ruined
Ryder
everything.
fucked Dracula.
This is
So
all right, guys. So
take that as you
here's
will. It's
here's a
very
word from our
simple.
sponsors.
Yeah. Richter Belmont
that's
fights
the cue to
Dracula.
cut. That's the cue to cut. And word from our
Okay.
sponsors. Hello, and welcome back, guys.
Hello, welcome
Oh
back.
god. Anyways, though, no,
We're here to
seriously.
talk about Destroy All Humans.
Seriously though, that's yeah.
Yeah.
No, the game does sound good. I most likely will play it. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It's
But
amazing.
yeah, if we have
Just
any
look at it.
sponsors for this one, here's where they'll go. Doubt it.
Yes.
Now, continuing.
All right.
All right. Welcome back, guys.
What's
I've
up?
been playing a little bit of Destroy All Humans, is what I've been playing. I don't think it has
Yay.
quite the same pedigree as Castlevania Symphony of the Night has. Certainly not, I would say. But it's actually a really good game.
Which I did wonderful justice in our episode.
You did fantastic. But no, so I originally played it for my PS2 Gauntlet, because originally the game came out on the PlayStation 2. In case
Okay.
that wasn't clear. But
Mhm.
I then started playing it on the PS4 because I do have a copy of it on there as well. And then I realized that I got a copy of it from the Humble Bundle at some point. So then I actually ended up finishing my playthrough of it on PC from beginning to end. So this
Nice.
footage is from the PS4 copy, but I technically played it on the PC from beginning to end.
Okay.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between the PC slash PS4 and PS2 version. But first
Okay.
off, the game itself. What is the game? Destroy All Humans. It's honestly, it's just a wonderful game about running around and fucking shit up. That's 99% of what you do. The
I mean, it
story,
looks
it doesn't
pretty.
matter. It doesn't matter at all. But like your brother, he crashes, and that was like your famous Roswell crash or whatever, and he's
Okay.
missing. So you come
That's what
with
kicks off the
another
game, the
guy.
Roswell crash?
Yeah, yeah. So, so, so then like you come to Earth with this guy named like Pox or something. I think he's like the leader of your group. I don't really know the story. Who gives a shit? But so now you're trying to find your brother and just trying to take over the world. Essentially, that's your goal. That's why you're here.
Oh,
Yeah,
you can shape shift, kinda. You
you
can
can
put a
shapeshift,
hologram
yeah.
around yourself.
So when you first start out, you only have a couple basic abilities. You have like a jetpack with limited usage, and then you have a like a shocking weapon, and you can make people's heads explode so that you can collect their brain stems. Because it turns out, here's a bit of lore for you, that there's a
Okay,
tiny bit of Furon DNA. That's the name of their race. There's a tiny
okay.
bit of Furon DNA in every human. There was something
Hmm.
happened in the past that, as far as I know, they never cover. So humans are a very tiny percentage Furon. There's
Okay. Is that
also
the
this
name of your
whole
race?
yeah, that's the name of your race.
Okay.
There's also this whole like behind the scenes sort of thing that's mentioned here and there, but not really the point of the game.
Hmm.
Where like there's some problems with your race dying out. They need like a pure version of Huron DNA, but they don't have any of that anymore. So that's why you're like
Okay.
stealing the DNA from humans, extracting it from humans, because their version of the DNA is thousands of years old, so it's still pure.
Okay.
So to
Okay.
like save your race, that's like something that's going on. But again, it doesn't matter, man. Like it hardly comes up in the game. The
So
whole point
what's
of it is, go ahead.
we need to destroy planet Earth? What do they mean by destroy all humans?
No, just humans, man. You're just fucking up humans, honestly. But so you first start out the
Just
game and
destroy all
you're
humans around
all of
yourself.
them.
Okay.
Everyone. Yeah, yeah. In
Okay.
this game, it's just America, but it branches out in the second game, so I've been told. But no, so you first come to the planet,
Hmm.
and you're like on a little farm or whatever, and you're just learning the ropes of the game. But then you finish up that little tutorial area and you get back to your ship, and it turns out the game works in like mission style. They're just small chunks of missions that you're sent to complete. Those missions could be find a specific person and lead them back to your ship so that you can
Okay.
abduct them or whatever. It can be
Okay.
mimic a politician so that you can calm down the populace that are getting too close to figuring out about you and your goals here. um
Okay.
it could be your mission could be just to blow up as much shit as possible in a certain period of time or whatever. There's a lot of
Okay.
different small mission types like that, and that's really what the game was built around. It was just built around you come in and you just have a fun time, man. You kill people, sometimes in hilarious ways. You abduct people. You get in your saucer, your flying saucer, and that has like a giant death laser and sonic weapons and stuff like that, so that you can just start blowing up entire buildings more easily and more quickly and shit like that. And it's just fun. It's a
Gotcha.
fun game. Nothing else
Okay.
matters about it. You're just here to have fun.
So
Uh,
how do you shoot? Is it like third
yeah.
person controls,
So
or
yes,
because you seem to
it's
be
third
like
person.
locking on to people
It's third
like
person.
as you
There
run
is a little
around?
bit of lock on. Since I was playing on controller, there was some auto aim added in, but that kind of
Okay.
brings us to the differences between the PS2 and the remake version of it here, the remaster of it. They completely
Okay.
changed the controls, because the controls in the original, I don't remember exactly how they worked, but they were kind of garbage, honestly. So they
Okay.
redid them for the port, which honestly really good that they did. So you run
Okay.
around and aim like normal. But then you have your weapon, which you can bring up a little wheel to switch between your various weapons that you have. Um, but
Okay.
you also have the ability to shoot out like an anal probe. Um, at any time, that's one of your weapons, and I find that one hilarious. Honestly, you only have like one ammo for it, but it kills them very quickly, and it mimics the whenever you explode someone's head. It also does that for you, so that you can collect DNA from them. So that's nice.
Oh,
Um, and then you have the ability to hypnotize people to make them do different things. Like you can use them as a distraction, because there are like military units and men in black types and stuff like that sometimes you
okay.
have to get around, that can see through your disguise more easily, so you can use another human to distract them. You
Okay.
can mimic people, you can read people's thoughts. uh that's pretty much it. Oh, you have the backpack, and then at some point you can like dash quickly for extended periods of time. It's
Okay.
basically the controls. But one of the things between the PS2 and PS4 version that they changed that I really did like in the original PS2 one, anytime, not every time, but sometimes you would get sent to a new area. You would complete your mission for that area. In the case of what's on screen right now, you're trying to find like the dumbest human in this area to bring back to your
Okay.
ship. Don't remember why that's important for it to be the dumbest person, but it is. So that's what you do,
Okay.
and it ends up being Miss Rockwell, the Miss America of this town or whatever, because of course
Yeah.
that's the dumbest person.
Right.
And so you would complete that mission, and then after you completed it, you would still be in the level, and you wouldn't be able to leave the level to actually complete the mission until you extracted a certain amount of DNA from the humans there. That's they remove that entirely.
Okay.
You're never
Okay.
forced to just collect DNA anymore. That's kind of been de-emphasized, and I actually
Okay.
kind of appreciate that, because if I just want to, like, if I'm not really enjoying this area or whatever, I can get out of it more quickly, or I can get into the free play mode, because after you beat a mission in an area, you can just
Mhm.
explore it, and then you can find all the little hidden collectibles, you can probe people, you can blow up their heads, you can do all of that fun stuff. It's great. um
Okay.
so they removed
So,
that. They fixed the controls. They made it a hell of a lot prettier. They added more power ups, which is what the DNA is actually used for. You spend that to get power ups.
okay.
Um, and yeah, you sound like you had a question.
Oh, I was just gonna ask. So the big
The big,
the big the
the
big
big. Yes,
the great big ship, the mothership. You said
yes,
you go
yes,
on
yes, yes,
missions.
yes.
So these missions, what do they say they're using these particles for? To how do they plan on saving their race? Do they accomplish their goal?
Don't really talk
'Cause you
about it. The
said
story doesn't matter. No, they don't accomplish the goal.
they don't
Nope.
accomplish their goal.
They don't accomplish the goal. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but by the end of the game, you're still on the planet. Um, and as far as I can remember, the whole
They have
needing to
not
collect
destroyed all
Furon.
humans.
No, no, but they're getting there. They're getting there. It's building up to it. You are in
Okay.
a seat of significant power by the end of the game. I'll say that much. I don't want to spoil things
Okay.
though.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but
That's good though.
anyways, as far as I can remember, though, no, they really don't. Like, it's mentioned that like I said, the Furon DNA is needed to save the race in one way or another. That's why you're collecting it. From a story point, from a gameplay standpoint, you're collecting it so that you can spend it for power ups, and
Wow.
that's why like the doctory dude trades you the Furon DNA for
Okay.
power ups, is because he needs that to
I
save
like
everyone
this
or whatever.
driving
Um,
sequence here with the spaceship. You can like I love that beam that shoots down.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
How
Like, there's different power ups. So yeah, with the spaceship, I guess I
yeah.
didn't really talk about that much. You fly around in the spaceship,
Uh-huh.
and it flies very smoothly because it's a spaceship, so it just hovers. So you just get to move
Right.
it around pretty much freely.
Uh-huh.
It has the death ray that I mentioned. It has a beam so that like you can lift things up and throw it at people. You also have that ability whenever you're on the ground. It's you have telekinesis powers. Um,
Okay.
Later on you also get another one that's like a sonic boom weapon, and then you get one that like just tears things apart on a particle level. That's like the most powerful weapon or whatever. um and then you can also like transmorgify things to get more shields and ammo and stuff like that. It's good.
Okay.
It's good. The whole game plays very smoothly on the PC version. It's very smooth. The levels
Gotcha.
are relatively short, right? Each
Yeah.
each mission only takes like 10-15 minutes to complete for the most part. Um
Okay.
each individual level, like the actual areas that you're running around in, are
Mhm.
fairly large, but you're never
Okay.
forced to really explore them unless you want to go for that 100% completion.
Right.
All of the missions that you're on have sub goals that you can try to get, and accomplishing those sub goals gives you more Furon DNA that you can then use for power ups and things to make yourself stronger. And then
Gotcha.
that is the gameplay loop. That's all you're doing the whole time. But as I mentioned during your portion there, one of the things that I really like is that the game's not super long. Like I said, the missions are relatively short. The game
Mhm.
itself is relatively short. Like it doesn't overstay its welcome. At no
Gotcha.
point did I feel like, okay, I have to keep playing, but I just kind of want to stop at this point, you know?
Which makes it the
It never.
perfect candidate for just one more level podcast kind of game.
Right. No, honestly, yeah, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. I would suggest that people check it out. I don't remember how much it actually goes for. Like I said, I got it from the Humble Bundle. I think the PS4
Gotcha.
copies can be found secondhand for like $10 or something. It's probably
Right.
only
Yeah.
like 15 or 20 for a new copy of it. It's
Hmm.
relatively cheap. It I'm gonna look up how much it actually is on How Long to Beat because I don't want to like misquote it here, but I think it only took me like 12 hours or something to
Okay.
beat the game. It wasn't super long at all.
Gotcha. Did you
How long does
100%
Short
the
Up Beat?
game or?
I did not. I've considered going back and 100%ing it, but I feel like I got everything I needed to out of it, you know? It was just a fun time. Right? It's kind of like
Okay.
GTA games. So you go into GTA
Okay.
games a lot of times playing them, you're not playing it for the story. You're not playing it to complete the game. You're
Hmm.
playing it to blow stuff up, to kill people in hilarious ways, etc.
Yeah.
And that's the focus of this game. That's what this game is. It even does have, I failed to mention earlier, it has a system kind of similar to GTA where you get
Hmm. You
progressively
you
stronger
select.
enemies coming at you.
Yeah, you
Um,
select missions from your
well,
hub.
yeah,
Like,
but no, that's not what I meant. I mean, whenever you're on the ground, right? At first, nobody knows you're there, so you're okay. And then you get spotted, and now guys, just random guys with guns, are trying to hunt you down until you like cool off, right? But if
right,
you start fighting back, now the police are coming after you. And if you start killing the police and really making a fuss, now the military are after you. And then if
right.
you keep fucking with them, now the men in black are after you. So it's kind of like that
Oh,
in
wow.
GTA, like the stars
Like
levels,
five
right?
star. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a similar system to that too, which is a lot of fun. How Long to
Gotcha.
Beat, by the way, says the main portion of the game is about 10.5 hours for main plus extras. Completionist is about
Gotcha.
14 and a half. So a good
Somewhere between
length,
then.
but it doesn't overstay its welcome at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is a very good length, I feel, especially for a modern game, because modern games like to push the limits of replayability and
Everything
how
has to
many.
be like 100 plus
Yeah,
hours, and it really
exactly.
doesn't
Yeah.
need to be, man. Like,
No, it doesn't. And you're made to feel like less than in the community if you're not pouring dozens and dozens of hours into these games. And it's just like, oh, you've only put in 40 hours.
I'm sorry,
I
I have
put
a,
in,
a full
I
time
put in,
job and do a
right,
podcast, and like I
right,
don't have
yeah,
time
exactly. I
to
have a
play.
child.
I don't have time to
I
play a game 40 hours a week, man. I
exactly.
have to work
Yeah.
40 hours a week. So,
Yeah, for real. I mean, seriously, it's that's exactly why we wanted to do this podcast because there were so many games that I wanted to play that
mhm.
I was never going to get the opportunity to play if I tried to sit down and commit to a playthrough of them. So why not just try a little bit? Let's
Right.
try a little
See
bit of
which
the
ones
game.
are worth playing more, and that is really the whole point.
Exactly. Yeah,
Another thing that I really love about the game, it doesn't take itself seriously at any point ever.
that's
Everything
good.
is stupid,
I didn't
and they
expect it to,
acknowledge
so
that
that
it's
I'm
stupid.
glad for that.
Yeah, like at one point you take over a politician, something that I mentioned earlier, and
Hmm.
you're in front of a crowd and you're trying to calm them down about all the destruction that you've been
Hmm.
causing. And it's like it becomes a multiple choice thing. Like somebody in the crowd will ask you a question, and then you'll be
Uh-huh.
able to give answers. Like you can blame it on the commies, or you can pretend that that sort of thing happens all the time. It's fine, or you
Hmm.
can spout some patriotic spiel. Or you can say the whole thing
Right.
was just a hoax, just stupid stuff. And then there's voice acted lines for all of it that they'll say, and then the crowd will either get mad at you or go along with it. And it's great, honestly. It's
That
it's a
sounds
fun
fun.
time. It's good for some laughs. Another one thing that I did really like about the PS2 version,
Hmm.
the voice acting was actually good enough that that's the one thing they didn't redo for the game.
Wow.
They
Okay.
kept all of the voice acting from the original games for the remasters here. Because
Nice.
they were just like, this is actually perfect. Nothing needs changed about it. It's staying in the game. Also,
Do you
Invader
do you
Zim
agree?
does the voice actor, or not. Somebody from Invader Zim does the voice acting for the main
See,
character. I
I
don't
was
remember which
about
one
to
exactly, but
ask Amber, I think, earlier for some reason. I don't know why, but I was about to ask Amber earlier if Invader Sim was from this game or from
oh
a
no,
movie like based on this game and around this
nope,
game. For some reason that was like crossed over in my brain. That's so weird that you say that. I'm sure it's not because of that. I'm sure I didn't know that. But
right,
like for some reason that was just kind of it was overlapped in my maybe just the character, the way the character looks.
right, right.
He's just like a small alien guy and he's active, so it kind of
Mm,
reminded me of Invader Zim a little bit. And it's colorful. Generally speaking, the game is, pretty bright and
That's another thing that they changed from the PS2 to the original. I mean, obviously the color palette and graphics and everything have been redone and do look much better.
Right.
But one thing that I remember that they changed, the mission that I'm actually doing right now is the first one where you take
Hmm.
over a politician. And for
Okay.
some reason in the original game, you take over the politician in the middle of the night, and then he holds a little town conference in the middle of the night, which if you actually think about like small town conference things, those sort of things usually happen like in the morning, maybe around noon or something like
Right.
that,
Yeah.
not in the middle of the night. So the developers, they kind of went through and kind of tidied up things like that as well, made it make a
Okay.
little bit more sense, which
Gotcha.
isn't that big of a deal one way or the other, but I don't
Yeah,
know,
but I
kind of
like that they
appreciate it at the
did
same time.
something like that
Yeah, yeah.
versus like Star Wars, for instance, because in Star Wars, um, they went through and they made all these graphical changes, right, to make things look new and pretty,
Hmm.
but they left in so many like huge errors, like big continuity bugs, where like for instance, like when Luke runs out of the cave, um, they hated that he ran out of the cave in episode 5. I'm sorry, excuse me, context. Uh, when in Star Wars Episode 5, when Luke is
Right.
trapped in an
Okay.
ice
Uh-huh.
cave on Hoth, he
Yep.
ignites his lightsaber to escape. When he runs
Okay.
out, his lightsaber is still lit.
Oh
Now they
no.
wanted to fix so they wanted to fix this, right? So they added a sound at the end, but they played the sound too early. So it sounds like his lightsaber's going back in, but it's still visible. And then they left it there. They made like 2 other versions of the movie where they kept changing things and they just left it in. So you have him running out of the cave like a doofus with his lightsaber on, and then a sound effect happens, but his lightsaber's still on. Just stuff like that. There's stuff like that all through the movies. There's a part in episode 4 where Darth Vader is speaking to
John.
somebody.
John. I
Yeah,
get it. I don't. I,
you know what I mean.
famously, not a Star Wars guy here.
They
That's
could have
I get
fixed it
it.
and they didn't
They
fix it.
fucked it up. George Lucas sucks. He's done everything wrong. I understand. I understand. But Destroy All Humans, though, the changes they made, I actually feel are very good. I wasn't a diehard fan of the first game or anything like that, the original game. So there may be someone out there that's annoyed about some of the changes, but I certainly am not. Every change that they've made, I've liked. They also added the one other thing I can think of, costumes that you can unlock by doing different things in the games. They
It's
don't
fun.
actually do anything other than change your character's appearance. So, it's just a fun little thing you can do. Like when I was running around, you may have noticed that I was gold. You're not normally
Right.
gold colored. I just thought that one looked neat, so I was using that one for a little bit.
It was
Um,
cool.
one of the running gags in the game that I like is people keep calling him a little green man.
Right.
It's too bad you can't see the original skin, but he's not green.
Right.
At any point in the game, is he a little green man? And
Right.
so that becomes a running gag. People keep calling him the little green man. He's like, I'm not green. And then the
Mhm.
next person will come along. He's like, are you people fucking colorblind? I'm not green. Like he
Right. Yeah.
starts to actually get mad about people constantly saying that about him. It's just
Right.
one of those little running gags that's kind of fun.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a big thing in the whole UFO conspiracy community, I'm pretty sure. Is
right.
people correcting others when they say little green men. Like they
It could
say
be.
aliens are not
I'm
green.
I mean, how do you know? Have you seen one? I doubt
See,
it.
that's the thing. Like
But
I feel like that's something they say. You feel like that's something they say though, right?
probably. I could see someone doing that, like a pretentious
Right. Like a pretentious
UFOologist or whatever.
they're,
Like I
they're
could
actually believed to be a sort of gray or brown, maybe, you know. Some
Uh,
bullshit like that. I feel like that's a thing.
it's all bullshit.
It's all
Um
bullshit. It's okay, but this game looks really cool. I'd
it's
be interested in it.
it's a lot of
But
fun, and I do, like I said, I suggest that people try it out if you're just looking for a good time. If you're looking for a deep
mhm.
story and shit like that, not worth it.
Nah.
But if you just want to blow some shit up, you want to kill some people, you want to do some fun missions, get some decent humor. It is like early 2000s humor, but still,
Mhm. Yeah.
that's that was my childhood, so that's fine.
Right.
It's just a good time. There's really not. I'm trying to think of like any negatives about the game. I guess
Any
sometimes
big
things
negatives?
weren't. Yeah, sometimes things weren't super clear on what like you should be doing at any given time or anything like that. Um,
You know what? I kind of get
s-
that.
yeah,
Just from the footage, it seems like there's not. It seems like you have trouble from time to time being focused on like
right. Well, I
where it is
mean,
exactly you're supposed to
yeah.
be going. You
And
know
I'm
what I mean?
sure
There's a lot
some of
of like,
that's my fault. A lot of that's probably my fault. But
nah,
some
you're fine.
missions, like, you have to play completely stealthily, right? Like, you can't
All
get
right.
caught at any point. But then, like,
You
where
should
they
jump
spawn you
off that
in,
roof as the policeman.
right?
That won't
Um,
arouse suspicion.
Actually, it probably wouldn't. But besides the point. Um, but yeah, like sometimes you have to be super stealthy and can't get caught. But then where they spawn you in is right next to a bunch of people. So like, and
Okay.
eventually you get power ups to help you deal with that sort of thing. Like one that I'm about to get right here is the ability to distract people, the one that I talked about earlier. But you don't
Okay.
have that one from the
Gotcha.
beginning of the game. So like there were a couple
Right.
times that would have been useful and it just wasn't available to me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, stealth stuff in general just usually isn't my jam. So that
Right.
just in general kind of annoys me. I just want to blow shit up and in hilarious ways. So
That's fair.
didn't care for that too much, but that's all right. It's not a huge portion of the game. The boss fight at the end of the game, because I did end up beating this game, dragged on too long.
Right.
That
Oh
was a
yeah.
bit too much
Okay.
for me personally.
What kind of
Specific to the
boss do you
PS2
fight?
version, I can only actually remember like two bosses, maybe three. There was a giant mech thing, and then there was like a giant mech thing, like a very large one, and then a very very large one, like a larger than buildings sort of deal. And then you fight
Okay.
a human. That's your final boss as a human,
Just,
just a person,
I mean,
a
does he
kick-ass
have?
person, but a person.
I was about to
So
say, does he have?
you think it's a he?
Oh, do they have? W- like cool weapons, perhaps, or cool armor if they're fighting an alien with cool weapons and armor.
I mean, like they're part of like the Men in Black style group,
Okay.
right? So they do have like
So
some
they have
advanced
access to
weaponry.
alien tech.
Yeah, some at least, yeah. So like they're more, they have some stuff, but at the end of the day, they're just a human. But they live way too long. Like there's
Hmm.
multiple stages to the boss fight, and it just kind of drags on a little bit there at the end.
Okay.
But it's not like it's not a 2 hour boss fight or anything ridiculous. It's
Oh
just
my god.
at that point I was. It's
Does that
not.
exist?
Yes, more than.
What?
There's like 12-hour boss fights. Usually like
Why and
optional
how?
bosses in games and things like that. Crazy people. But anyways,
Jeez.
this portion here is the one that I was talking about. So like people are complaining about the cows glowing like lightning bugs. So you can just
Hmm.
pretend that glowing is a normal thing. Which actually is the right option. It's just that healthy inner glow that comes from chewing a cut of fresh green Rockwell grass. Why I chew it myself all the time. Got some in my craw right now. Better than snuff. That's the proper answer to that question.
Ah,
That makes the crowd go wild. It's just like I said, just stupid cheesy humor and blowing shit up.
right.
That's all you actually need to know about the game. I could have said that at the beginning and then just called it there. Like that's it. That's the
I
game.
like it though.
It's really
I
good.
like it.
It's
It's
really
it's
good.
it's
It's
it, it,
a
it's
lot
nice.
of fun.
It looks like fun. Yeah, I mean, it's colorful. It looks like it would be like a good time. I appreciate games like this. You gotta have
They
games
did
like this.
change the graphic style from the PS2 to the remake. Originally,
Hmm.
they were going for something more realistic. They went much more cartoony for the remake, which
Really?
I personally think was the right call.
See, I thought they were
Um,
gonna go the opposite way.
no,
I thought it
no,
was gonna be
nope. They went
more
from as real
cartoonish
as they
and
could make it on the PS2 to over the top
damn.
cartoony
So
and
it's, I mean, so what do you have
caricature
like?
like.
You got like God of War looking shit in the original one,
Well, I mean, okay,
or like
that it's not like a Sony made game, and it's a large open game, not a
okay,
a very focused fixed camera game. So no,
right?
don't expect anything looking like God of War. But it was as realistic as the developer could muster
Okay.
on the PS2. And then now it's like caricature. Your women have exaggerated features on their
Yeah.
chest, and a lot
Yeah.
of people have like big noses and overly exaggerated
Right.
wrinkles
Right.
on their face and sagging like features on their face and stuff like that. Like
Right. Right. Right.
it's very caricature X, whereas the original went as realistic as they could. Uh,
I was just gonna find it hilarious if the original Destroy All Humans looked like Shadow of the Colossus,
yes.
and
uh,
and then you have this.
But yeah, I other than what I mentioned, I can't really think of anything else I didn't really like about the game. It's really
Okay.
good. It's rating wise, I don't know, man. 4 out of 5. Like
Like 4 out of 5? Okay.
like a 4 out of 5, honestly. Yeah, it's really good. By the time I beat it, I wanted to play more of it. Thankfully, there is a second game. The remaster was just released of it. I'll probably end up picking it up soon. Small spoilers from
Gotcha.
that one. From what I hear, Russia starts getting into this in some way. I guess there's a second clan of aliens that might come to Earth at some point, and their
Ooh,
base of operations
alright.
is in Russia, and your base is obviously in America. So now, there's that
Um,
classic Russia America thing going on there, but it's
I wonder
actually
what it was
aliens.
about the
And
developers of this game that were so focused on communism.
I think it's because of the time period, right? Because it's
Oh,
like,
this takes
yeah,
place during
yeah,
okay,
because
okay.
remember it's right after the Rockwell crash and or
I
Roswell crash or whatever. So
I
yeah,
don't know why, but for some reason I thought when you said his brother was in the Roswell crash,
Wash.
I just assumed that these beings lived for much longer than humans.
They
So,
very well
like,
may, but this is
so
like
this
right afterwards. Yeah,
yeah, see,
yeah.
for some reason, I was like, "Oh, so it happens in the modern day," but his brother, 60 years ago, crashed in Roswell. Okay.
Nope, nope,
That's
not at all.
just
This is like right after
that
that
was
the
just,
Roswell crash, that time
it was
period
just
for sure.
some invented headcanon that I made
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, no.
I decided that the game took place in modern day.
But yeah.
Yeah,
4 out of 5. I would play just one more level, but I already beat the game. So
right.
that's yeah.
Now you have different versions and you have sequels, so you'll
Yep.
play just one more level
I'll
eventually.
yeah, I'll most definitely play the second one. I'm probably not going to hop on it right away because why spend money on a full price game whenever I have way too many that I need to play.
Right?
But yeah, I think the second one, I don't think it's a 60 $70 game. I think it's actually like a 40 $30 $40 one or something like that. So pretty reasonably priced in my
Makes sense.
opinion.
Appreciate
But
that.
yeah, no, I'm probably going to wait a little bit, but I am excited to play it whenever I do get around to picking it up. That was the Just One More Level podcast. Thank you guys so
Yeah.
much for joining us tonight. We do appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
If you want to try out these games, then try them out. Let us know if you like them or not.
Yeah.
Both Castlevania Symphony of the Night and Destroy All Humans, they're available on modern consoles. They're a lot of fun. Give them a try.
Yeah.
And until then, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening and supporting us like you always do. You don't have to, but you do, and we appreciate it. Christian, what can they do to each other?
They can be kind to each other. That's always appreciated. Just in general, be a kind
Yeah,
person. Don't be dicks.
yeah.
World sucks, man. Don't make it worse.
Wow, Christian's ready to fight God tonight. All right,
Fight
we'll see
God.
you. We'll see y'all next week,
Castlevania
everybody.
Symphony of the Night back on the screen. Bye
Yep.
bye, guys.
All right. Bye bye.